I'd like to introduce the board to you. To my right is Ken Foreman, who's a voting member of the board. To his right is Patty Johnson, who's an associate member of the board. To my left is Tricia Favuli, who is the clerk of the board. To her left is Scott Zielinski, a voting member of the board, and to his left is David Haddad, who is an associate member of the board. Dennis Murphy is absent this evening. To the far table is Suri Budrow, our zoning administrator, and Melanie Matthews, who is our recording secretary. This evening we have one hearing. It's a continuation from last week. Just a couple of things for some of you who may not be familiar with the zoning board and its operations. We do try to review each hearing by gathering evidence through testimony, site visits, and review of documents. What I would ask is that everyone show respect and courtesy during this process. First of all, if you would silence any cell phones or electronic devices that you have. I would also ask everyone to listen to the individuals who've been recognized by the chair. Refrain from private conversations amongst yourself, and please refrain from making derogatory statements. We're not terribly interested in the characterizations of individuals or the motives. We're interested in getting the facts that relate to the zoning bylaw. This hearing, which, as I said, is a continuation from last week, is application 36-12. It's an application of Susan LeBourne. It has already been read into the record. This is an appeal of a decision of the building commissioner. And to deny this application is to uphold the building commissioner. To approve the application is to overturn the building commissioner. The building commissioner's decision was made on March 21st. And although it references the zoning bylaw, it also references the Mass Building Code. The Zoning Board of Appeals does not deal with the Mass Building Code, so the only issue before us is the zoning bylaw. I'd like to recognize the applicant's representative, Mr. Kirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Thank you also. Is this on?
Good luck.
Just move it a little closer and raise it.
Thank you for the courtesy of the continuance. Last week I had a conflict over with a matter over on the Oak Bluffs Zoning Board, and they only meet once every month, so I appreciate the consideration. It's nice to be here at a reasonable hour, too. We are appealing the decision of the building commissioner, who, as I read his decision, essentially seems to have believed that a special permit or a modification of a special permit or some zoning relief was needed from this board in order for my client to use this structure for habitation. And I believe he was incorrect in that. I have had conversation with the building commissioner. I believe that when he reviewed the first decision that was made in this case, and that was, it was an application for a variance, and the owner at that time, Mr. Taylor, wanted to build this structure where he did in fact build it, and he applied for a variance. And the board, in its consideration of the application, determined that the variance wasn't needed because he wasn't putting it in the side yard where there needed to be a 10-foot separation from the lot line, but it was in the backyard where there was no such separation. So the long and the short of the decision was that a variance was not needed, and this could be built where it was proposed to be built as a matter of right. It was characterized at the time of the application as a boathouse and garage. Based on the information that I've submitted, including assessor's cards, there's letters from some of the abutters, would indicate that right from the get-go, this structure was in fact used for habitation. There's never been a kitchen in there. There is a separate room, which is a bedroom, you could call, and a bathroom, and the rest of it is just an open living space. So that it's our position that the use of this structure as overflow, if you will, from the use of the house. It's part of the principal use of the property, although it's taking place in a legal accessory structure, such as you might have over a garage, whether the garage was attached to the house or not. That use is authorized. And there was no special permit that created that use, and there was no variance that created that use. It's a residential district, and it's a residential use in an accessory structure. And I believe that the building commissioner, when he saw the format of the decision, it's laid out the way special permits used to be laid out and variances used to be laid out, and I think came to a conclusion that this was an affirmative relief granted by the board back in 1967. And in some of his earlier correspondence in 2009, that seems to be the case, because he says to my client that you got a special permit for this and now you have to modify that. So that's really the heart of the matter. I think you've got photographs that show what the building looks like. There have been a few modifications to the structure itself over the years. Most recently, after my client purchased the property, she came to Mr. Gore and wanted to do some work on the interior. He gave a permit for that work, and apparently there was some complaints from the neighbors. He backed off a little bit and he said, don't do the interior work, just do the exterior work. And so she put in sliders, I think, and modified a window. And then there were more complaints, and then he backed off again and asked her to stop that work, which she did. And nothing has happened since then. And the property is essentially as it's been for all these years, with the exception of those modifications to the exterior. So we don't believe that there's any, we don't believe the building commissioner was correct, that there are any zoning violations taking place here, that the use of this structure as overflow to the house is perfectly legal. And I don't find anything else in Mr. Gore's correspondence, anything more specific that would lead you to a different result. So what we're asking is basically that you find that there are no zoning violations in terms of the use of this, and that the decision would be overturned. And I would point out to you, you've got letters from one woman whose family owned the property and whose family used to use this particular structure. I think that was from 76 maybe to 2001, 25-year experience of what the use was, as well as Mrs. Nickerson, who's the immediate abutter, who corroborates that. My client did her due diligence when she purchased the property. It was advertised for sale as this boathouse being accessible, or I should say available for this use. She went to the town hall, she made inquiry, she was told, no, it's fine. The only thing you can't do is you can't create a separate structure here or make a condominium out of it. She understood that. And she made the purchase. And she's used it in that fashion. She rents the property out in the summertime to families. She's able to advertise it to families with children, and they find this a very lovely and attractive spot. And it's the use of that structure is never severed or separated from the principal use. It's always family, and the kids sleep out in the accessory structure. So that's the gist of the appeal, and I'd try to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, sir. Just so everyone knows how we'll proceed, the clerk is going to review the file for any correspondence. The board is going to ask questions. Then we're going to open it up to the audience for those that are in favor of the application, which would be overturning the building commissioner's decision. Those that are opposed to it, which would be upholding the building commissioner's decision, or anyone that has any questions or comments in general. So I'll ask Mrs. Favuli to give us an update on the file.
All right, I'll read the correspondence that we have. Dear Board, I've lived at 227 Edgewater Drive West, and I'm a direct abutter to the property at 223 Edgewater Drive. I've lived at 227 Edgewater Drive since 1959. Prior to the construction of the boathouse by the Taylors, I was in the boathouse several times. After it was built by the Taylors, from the very beginning, it was always finished space with a bedroom, bathroom, and a sink. It has always had electricity and running water. The Taylors were a large family, and the boathouse was used as additional space for their children and visitors. Dear Board, I've lived at 241 Edgewater Drive West, and my in-laws owned the property at 223 Edgewater Drive West from 1976 to 2001. During the 25 years they owned the property, I spent a good deal of time there and also resided in the house during a period of time when work was being done on my house located 4 houses away. I know that my husband, who was a plumber, had received a permit for work done in the bathroom in the boathouse, and I was personally present when the premises were being inspected by the town. My son, his wife, and children would sleep in the boathouse when they came to visit during the summer months and would walk over to my house for their meals, and that is from Shirley Dufton. And that's all there is.
Thanks. I forgot to mention earlier who the voting members are. It'll be the regular members, and where Mrs. Johnson will be a voting member next month, we're going to let David vote this evening, so Mr. Haddad and the regular voting members. All right, so
Was there a letter there from Ms. LeBourne, too?
Yes,
Okay.
there is, but I wasn't reading it in because
That's-
you reviewed it. If you want me to...
No, that's fine. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that
Yep,
it was
we
there.
have it.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, with that, David, why don't you start with questions?
Good evening, Mr. Kirk. I was just curious, you mentioned complaints from the abutters. There was some alterations being done and it ceased. Was that Mrs. LeBourne's doing or Mr. Gore saying stop with the
The building
improvements?
commissioner, the first situation was she went and got a permit to do some renovations, which was issued by Mr. Gore. Then I believe there were complaints made to Mr. Gore. And I believe he called her in and said, there's some complaints going on here. I'm going to revoke the permit that I issued to you for your interior work. We'll apply your fee that she had paid to an application to do only the exterior work. So she had started some work on the interior. She cooperated with him, ceased, then started to do the exterior work, which was put in sliders and change a door and a window. There were still complaints. So he revoked that second permit as well. And by the time he had revoked that permit, most of the exterior work, which was very limited to begin with, it was basically just the sliders and the window, had been completed. And she ceased doing anything further when she received that request from the building commissioner.
No further questions, thanks.
Scott?
Mr. Kirk, do you have any idea why he split up the work, why he allowed them to continue to do the exterior work and then cease the interior? Was there some kind of specific interior work that would have warranted revocation of that permit?
I think as I looked over the permit, the one thing I saw there was a reference to a kitchen.
Okay.
And he may have said that, he may have just decided that he was improvident in allowing a kitchen to go in there, and I frankly tend to think that probably was not authorized, because that obviously, as you know, would create at least the appearance of a second dwelling, which would be illegal.
I understand.
So that I think was what probably prompted, and we would have no quarrel with that aspect of it.
I understand. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Tricia?
And what year was the accessory building put up?
1967,
All right, that was by special permit?
no.
No, it was the special
by-
permit was to alter it afterwards.
No.
No?
There's only been one application, well, I shouldn't say that. There was an application made here in 1967 for a variance to
okay.
place this structure in what was represented or thought to be a side yard, where there's a 10-foot requirement. And this structure was proposed to be located closer to the lot line than 10 feet. I think it went 4 feet. I'm sure the neighbors weren't happy about that. So, because it did, I think, probably obstruct some view there.
But that was in 1967.
But that was in 67, and the decision, in fact, was not a variance, but it was the board looked at the bylaw and said, you don't need a variance. You can put an accessory structure wherever you like in the rear yard, where there is no setback requirement. So it went where they wanted it to go as a matter of right.
Okay.
And that was in 67. I believe subsequent to that, the owner, and this is just for historical purposes, did apply for a second variance to put in a second accessory structure, but that was denied.
Okay.
So it's been, excuse me, where it is now since 1967, with no changes.
All right, thank you. That's it?
All right, Ken?
The principal structure was built in what year?
Before 1967, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to give you that date.
Does 58 sound right?
58 did
Yeah,
sound right.
that sounds in the 50s.
When it's rented then, the whole thing is rented, principal structure and the accessory
That's right.
structure, to a single entity?
That is correct.
Okay, that's my question.
Patty?
How far is this accessory structure from the sideline?
4 feet. Yes.
And there's been no changes in the dimension? It's always been
30 by 16, that's right. There's a step that leads up into the building, but the structure itself is 30 by 16.
And it was never meant to be a garage?
Apparently, it was never meant to be a garage because you couldn't get there from here. There wasn't enough room to get by the house, down the sideline, and into this
That's right.
structure. And the early, the face of the building that faces up to the street appears it was never a door. It's always been a big window.
Thank you.
And
That's it for me.
The only additional question I have is, are there any kitchen appliances in that structure at all?
I don't believe there are any.
Okay, so no refrigerator, no microwave, no
I
cooktop?
don't believe so. I think the only thing that's there mechanical, like there's a dehumidifier or something like that, but I don't believe there's any other cooking type facilities.
Thank you. Suri, any questions?
No.
Okay, thanks, Ed. What I'll do is anyone who is now in opposition to this application, in essence to uphold the building commissioner, recognize you, come on up to the lectern and identify yourself for the record, okay? Those who are opposed. Thank you.
Good evening. I hope I can be as eloquent and, I guess, informative and also as biased as the presentation that was just given.
What's his name?
I've lived at...
Needs his name.
My name is Charles Gross. I live at 221
Thank you.
Edgewater Drive West. I live directly to the right-hand side of the dwelling in question here. I came here to support the building commissioner's decision to deny a special permit. Unfortunately, I'm not as eloquent as the counselor is.
We don't measure it in terms of eloquence.
A somewhat of a bias with regards to neighbors that I've known for, I don't know, my parents bought the house in 1961. I think we've seen Seacoast Shores go through quite an evolution of a highly densely populated area. I've tried to be a good neighbor. At times when I have approached people about problems, we've been told to go live somewhere else. And I know that sounds rather crass, but what I came to talk to about was just the impact of the rentals of that structure and of the entire area. Last week, I had to call the police at 1:30 in the morning. Basically, our homes are, I'd say, probably about 10 feet apart. And I don't enjoy waking up at 1:30 in the morning to cursing, bottles clinking. I don't enjoy a frat house atmosphere. I'd say probably a third to maybe half of the people that rent the place are families, and they are respectful. It has impacted on my life and my family's life. And I don't have a problem with any of my other neighbors at all. In fact, I was very cordial with Phil Seymour, who owned the property for a number of years, his parents. I was also very cordial with Peter West, who I believe went in front of the Conservation Commission seeking the same sort of changes that these people are asking for right now, or at least the positive feedback from you folks. I don't have the correct.
If I can try to help you out.
Sure.
They're not asking for permission for anything or a permit. And quite honestly, we're not terribly interested in your relationship with your neighbors.
Sure.
Okay, we're trying to focus on,
Exactly.
and what you could help us out with is to
How
point
can I-
out
sure.
where the existing structure violates the zoning bylaw.
Well, I think what bothered me most is that and I think the characterization of Mr. Gore being pretty amenable to everything going on is incorrect. However, I can certainly understand people wanting to upgrade their properties. As far as I'm concerned, the structure itself has been modified to a high degree. We've had a garage door get removed. It's been modified internally above and beyond what it's been characterized as. While my neighbors, the Duftons, who I've known for about 40 years, as well as the other neighbors, characterized that, I really don't think they have as intimate a relationship as I have with the structure or the goings-on that's occurred inside of there. I live 10 feet right next to it, and I can provide, quite a history of what's occurred, both positive and negative. Because, like I said, I'm just here, like I said, to support what the building commissioner had to say. We're relying on you folks to hopefully see and to please take the time to look at all of the documents, I think, that have been provided, and to make a decision that I think upholds what Mr. Gore, I think is trying to say.
If I can, and the rest of the board may have a question or two, too. Again, parties, et cetera,
Yeah,
that's not
exactly.
within the zoning bylaw. Okay, you can have a single-family residence that doesn't have a question about rentals, et cetera,
Yeah.
being, pretty bad neighbors. But you had mentioned that there had been a lot of upgrades beyond what had been mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Can you try to help us out in terms of what you think were violations? The removal of the garage door and...
The complete refinishing of the interior of it. Basically, I've lived here full-time since 1999. The structure at that time was open-studded, interior-wise. And again, I've been in and out of the structure for 40 years, since it's been built, both when the Taylors were there and now. And I have a very good evolution of the structure. For years, Phil Seymour, there's no one that has stayed inside that structure whatsoever. I know the Duftons' children, and Shirley Dufton's grandchildren stay in their home. They have a huge house to live inside of. Phil Seymour shared that place with his mother and his aunt. There was no one staying inside of that structure during the time that's characterized, I think, from 1996 to when Phil moved in 2001. No one stayed inside there whatsoever. None. It was used as storage, and that's what I believe the entire structure was originally approved as, and has been used as. The garage, like I said, not to sound repetitive, the garage door was removed, sliders were put in. I did call the building department because I was under the impression that the Conservation Commission had said, and again, my understanding is that that the parties involved in town really don't communicate that well with each other. And I came to the meeting, and I want to compliment you folks on, on at least creating that atmosphere. And I think that's the entire baseline of this problem, is that we had no communication amongst the departments, or we wouldn't even be here today. We would basically have said, you know what, you're doing it, you're not following the rules. I filed to have work done on my home, went through conservation, did the correct permits, didn't hire outside contractors to come in to do work from off-Cape, in violation of building permits, continuation of work permits or stop permits were just ignored. And that's where the complaints were from. I mean, we were in an intimate, sometimes daily with Mr. Gore, and he is overwhelmed, okay, with work, but at the same time, he has an obligation to monitor projects like this, and he just unfortunately was not up to task.
Let's see if anyone else has any
Sure,
questions.
please, I would love to.
Ken?
You mentioned that it was, the interior was refinished, and implied, I think, that basically that resulted in winterization
Sure.
of it. So is it used during the winter, do you know?
Most of the work was done during the winter. in
But
the
is someone
interior.
occupying?
No, not at all. No one, and again, there's been consistent no use throughout the years. And I'll give you a timeline. I remember the structure being built, when I was 5, 6 years old. No one's ever lived in there. No one has ever occupied it, other than as as basically looking at the interior. It looks like a really, at the time, or over the years, it basically looks like a camp. It's had the same windows until recently, been there for years. It's not insulated at all. Now, all of this interior work has evolved over the last, let's say, 3 to 5, 7 years or so. And you just stand back and you say, I hope that somebody will offer some remedy to us to,
So when it is occupied,
Sure.
is it your perception that there is more than one party there, in terms of, not party like having a party like group of people, a different set of people living in the accessory structure than in the main house?
when it's being rented?
Yes.
Yes, I definitely agree with that point right there. I feel as though that the structure is used as an additional rental property on there. And it's just very, and again, I don't want to go on site.
But it feels to you like could be one group renting the house and a different group renting?
Yeah, I really do so. That's my perception, yeah, very much so.
Any other questions?
I have two.
Sure.
Mr. Gross, do you have any firsthand knowledge of there being a kitchen in that structure?
I don't know, but I do know that I did speak with... Yeah, excuse
All
me.
I want to know is...
No, I don't, no.
Okay,
no.
and my second question is, you mentioned the atmosphere of a frat house.
Mhm.
Do you think that property being rented the way it is, with renters coming in for weeks at a time or whatever, would change whether there were people sleeping out there or not?
It has been that way because people do sleep out there. And it is used as a spillover or another use for other people that may be either renting the property or my perception is there are 2 rental parties occurring there at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And forgive me for speaking for Mr. Foreman, but I think he was asking a question. He wasn't trying to make a point.
Sure.
On that, going on that, do you have any direct proof that they're splitting up those 2 structures in separate rentals?
Well, when you refer to proof, I need you to quantify how I can answer your question, only because
Let me help you. How did you come to the conclusion that it was rented
Thank you,
separately?
Mr. Chairman.
Well, it's so coincidental to see multiple state plates It's one thing when you see Massachusetts plates, it's another thing when you say New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts plates. And when you see people that, and again, I live right next door, so I can see, there's a fence, but I can still hear and see what's going on. And it's pretty, again, that's my perception. I haven't gone next door and said, who are you? But I've lived there long enough, just like you have neighbors, that you can certainly have a feel for what is going on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Were you the abutter in 1967 when the structure was built?
My parents were.
Your parents were?
Yeah, and I've owned a home, since 1999.
And when the permit was taken for the boathouse to have a bathroom in it at that time?
No, it did not. That bathroom,
Let me ask the question.
Sure.
Okay. So they've been paying taxes for an improved building since that point in time and never questioned the fact that there was a finished room in there? All the town records are showing that there's been a bathroom there since 1967 with sign-offs from appropriate departments
Sure.
that was finished at that time.
Okay.
So you're saying that all of that is incorrect and there was nothing finished
Yes, that's correct.
all these years?
All these years,
All these
that's
years.
correct.
When the house was purchased and you noticed activity going on, when did you start complaining? This is 2012, and it was purchased quite a while ago.
When the activity started.
When is that? We don't have any, if anybody else is going to answer for him, I think they have to come to
Sure.
identify themselves.
5 years ago, thereabouts. No.
And
I think what needs to be aware of is, and again, I may not be that verbal in terms of an explanation.
you're doing fine.
Okay. I try and be a good neighbor. I'm like an accordion. I be flexible with people. If they're flexible with me, I'm flexible with them. The activity started, and I complained. I think that's a fair enough statement.
Okay, that's good.
I shouldn't have to say that, oh, you should have done this, therefore it
No,
lessens.
I just asked a
Excuse me,
simple,
okay.
yeah, that's all I wanted to know.
apologies if I-
All
No,
set,
that's
Charles.
fine.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm good.
All set, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anyone else in opposition?
Can we stick to these other issues?
Yeah.
This is getting a little out of,
Yeah.
I want to speak before.
Yeah.
I'll be just really quick.
It's not so much the quickness. I think what Ms. Budrow was saying is, we're trying to focus on the zoning issues. And I know it's very difficult for somebody who hasn't been here and following what we're doing, but we're trying to find out whether or not the structure itself or the use under the zoning bylaw is in violation.
All right, well-
Not how people are particularly using it, how loud it is, or how long people have lived there, et cetera. So if we can, all right?
Well, hi, my name is Susan Ryan Kell, and I live next door at 221 Edgewater Drive West. And in 2009, how this became about is I saw a slider going out to the water. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'm surprised they can put a deck out there. I saw the builder, and he said, yeah, they're putting a deck out there, and they're making an apartment. So I went down to conservation, and they said, no, they were denied, they're not putting a deck in. I said, well, they have a deck. They're starting to put, the deck is structurally starting. So they, as you can see, we'll pass this around, they were told to stop, and they put a gate and stopped the outside structure. Okay. In 2009, the application for renovation of the cottage was denied. That was the application to put in to put in a kitchen and do all the other work. Work continued, and I thought, oh, I saw all this, garbage. This is the garage here. There was a garage door, and 5 feet in was storage. I started all this stuff being emptied out. It was a storage unit. And again, I asked the builder, I said, what's going on? I said, oh, they're making an apartment. Now, my concern is if you want to build in the boathouse and you have proper permits and you're coded, that's fine. Whatever is allowed in the town. But what I'm really concerned about, since the homeowner was denied a permit, then went on 11/3/2009 and got a permit to change some doors and windows so they can have the permit outside during work, and continued to gut the building and do the work that they were denied. I thought that was not really fair for...
I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure thing.
Who denied them? Who are you talking
Oh,
about?
right here, it was application 2009-07794 to renovate the existing
So
cottage.
the building permit.
The building permit.
Okay,
And
that's
they
what
were-
I'm asking
I'm
you.
sorry.
What department denied
So,
them?
all right, so they were denied for that, and then they were granted a permit to change some windows. I then saw the garage door coming down and some sliders going in, and I went over and I asked the builder what was going on. He said, oh, they're making an apartment here. Now, what I'm concerned about is that that building does not become a secondary apartment. That's my main concern. And I'm concerned about that for, the main reason that when the homeowner was denied a permit to renovate and put a kitchen in there, she then circumvented it and went for some windows and some doors and started putting, gutting the building. What they did, this was the building before it was renovated, and then I have here the finished picture, which is the rental. They rent it for up to 12 people. That's a lot of people on that property. That's not for me to say, and that's not probably a zoning board issue. The main issue that I'm concerned with is that I'd like that to be monitored, pulled, and that building does not become an apartment. Because we live in a very congested neighborhood. The main thing that really sparked my interest was the deck. They pulled up all the shrubbery. Now, we live in an area that I watch. I've been there for 40 years. My grandparents live 2 houses over. And I saw them go from when I was a child, crabbing and clamming, to becoming, overrun. And now we're going to put a deck out and a kitchen. I thought that was a little bit much. So I just want the right, permits to be pulled. Here's a picture of
Do you want
the
to
garage.
give the board any of that
Yeah,
information?
you can have all of this.
It's totally up to you.
It's all, you can have all of this. So basically,
Mr.
that
Chairman, I have a
was my
question.
concern.
You're the chair.
It was, I've lived there for 10 years.
over here, Susan.
And I do know that it was used as a storage.
What about the other two things? Did you want to give that to us or not?
I think Sari might have that.
We have one. We have the
We just
advertisement.
have
I
the
don't-
rental advertisement. This is the new advertisement here. This is a picture of all of the work that's been done.
It's the old one. And do we have any idea of what the dates of those photos are, Susan?
This here,
The photos you just gave us.
This is the new one from this summer, and this is from last summer. So, when I went on and I went over
Matt,
next door.
can she get back by the microphone?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. You're welcome, excuse my nervousness.
You do?
So I'm one of the ones that called Mr. Gore.
Okay, so
You know,
this-
I noticed
sorry.
they have a permit for windows and doors, but I'm watching PVC piping going in, I'm watching the builders pulling out wood, and I'm watching this apartment or this building be gutted. And who's to say the homeowner is going to say, okay, we're just going to have this for living space? I just would like it not to become an apartment, a secondary apartment. It's a it's a nice piece of property to have a second apartment to rent out.
Susan, there might be a couple of other questions, and as we're getting to them, there's been a couple of times, I think, Charles has mentioned it as well, about conservation, and not to make it sound
Yeah, no,
like we
that's-
passed the buck at all, but we don't have control over conservation, so that any of those issues...
Yeah, that only sparked my interest. I was
No,
concerned
and
about what was
rightfully so.
going on.
And I say this more as an educational kind of
Right.
thing, because somebody from the public
Sure.
comes and says, oh, there's a board, why aren't they doing it? We only deal with the zoning bylaw, as I said earlier. We don't deal with the mass building code. We don't deal with the
Right.
conservation. We're dealing with, on this, the issues that you talk about in terms of possible apartment, those do relate to the zoning bylaw, so we can focus on those. Scott, did you have a question for Susan?
First of all,
Well, I just have one question for you as well. I noticed that in the beginning, when the boathouse was allowed, was it allowed to be built exactly right up to the property, which is kind of a moot point, but I was just curious.
This board had no jurisdiction.
Well, I think we'll answer that probably when we start to sift through the information, okay, Susan?
don't be nervous, you're doing fine.
You should see
You
him.
mentioned kitchen again. Do you have any direct knowledge that there's a kitchen
No,
in that structure?
What I said was that I saw the builder had come out, and I said, oh, what's going on? He said, oh, they're doing a big renovation. I said, they're moving, what's going on? Because I saw all the stuff coming out of the garage. He said, no, they're not moving, they're building an apartment in here. The builder who was from, I think, Abington or...
Okay. So you don't
I
have
have
any?
not seen,
And in any of the advertisements that aren't in the file, is it advertised that boathouse has cooking facilities in it? The new information you gave, I haven't had a chance to read it before
No,
my
it
turn.
does not. It just
Okay.
basically says that there's a, living space.
I just
So you
want
can
to, I just
see
want to
from
make
the-
sure you haven't seen anything
No.
or seen anything advertised
Then I would definitely,
that advertises that.
and I have not.
Okay, okay.
Susan, do you remember the dates approximately when those?
Those pictures
those.
I
Yep.
took, let's see, go back in my camera, it would have been after '09 when I found out that they were putting in windows. So when the permit was granted for the windows, and I went down to see Mr. Gore, and I said, they're doing more than just windows. Someone came down and spoke to them, they were told to stop.
So sometime after 2009?
Yeah, after 2009,
Okay, excellent.
definitely.
Any other questions? No. Questions, folks? Patty?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. Anything for Susan? Just one quick one from me, Susan. Again, following up on your review of the rental advertisements, anything, have you seen them rented separately? The one that we have in our file does not show it being rented separately. Did the one that you just gave us from last year?
Well, I mean, I've seen before where it seems that Sue might be in the house and then someone's staying in the boathouse. That could have been friends, that could have
No,
been...
the question was more, did the rental, was the rental itself, the advertisement for rental, separately for the boathouse from the main house?
Oh, I don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll look at that. Thanks. All right. Anyone else in opposition? Okay. Anyone here? Susan?
I just have one last thing to say. The reason, with Mr. Gore, just to state, so what happened was they went down, they told him to stop, and then there's a tunnel between the boathouse and the main house, and I could hear work going on in the main house, bandsaws, and when I called, I was told that they no longer had a code enforcer and that no one could go out. Curtains went up and then work continued. I guess that's really the point. That's about the timeline.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here in favor of the application, which would be to overturn the building commissioner's decision? Is there anyone that wants to speak? Yes, ma'am.
In favor. Hi, I'm Ann Lehan. I'm Susie's aunt. When Susie bought the property, I was her broker. I worked for Real Estate Associates. Susie is a very smart, bright woman. She does taxes for the state. She goes into towns to assess their property. And so when before we bought the property, Susie and I spent a great deal of time down in your cellars looking at every single thing, because I didn't want to sell or be part of a sale that wouldn't be legal. And the fact that it had the extra shed in the back, whatever I think they called it, a boathouse at the time, was we made sure it was legally put up. We would never enter any agreement with that price, with that money for a young couple, unless it was meant to be. The kitchen is not there. There's no kitchen. I mean, Susie has people in and out of there, agreed. She's a single mom. She does rent it, but there's no separate advertising like you've brought up many times. She went for the building permit. She learned a lot that she couldn't do. We all do. I mean, I live on Lanton Lane. I have had 6 building permits. I learn every step of the way. None of us know what these building permits mean unless we try them. And they let us know, no, you can't do this. It isn't like we have all the knowledge in the world. We don't. We're here to make everything work. I think when the house was built out in the '64, the neighbors will say people were very upset. That blocked their view, and they've been angry ever since. So, I don't know. Susie's not trying to do anything. She's trying to be a very happy lady with a piece of beautiful property, and she's enhanced it. Wood gets old by the water. My God, you've got to repair it. You guys know. Anybody, women, you know. It doesn't sit there for 20, 30 years and not need repairs. Yes, I'm sure there was work done on it, but not in a way to diminish or to deceive people. That's all.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, so if you could name and address, please.
Ann Lehan, Lehan. I'm at 17 Lantern Lane, and I live on a pond, so I've gone through conservation.
We know Lantern Lane very well.
And I'm very proud. I tell my brother-in-law You guys are all volunteers. I'm very pleased. I mean, we are so lucky in this town, so keep it up. We'll do our
Can-
best to abide by the rules.
Can we ask a couple of questions?
Any questions?
You any questions? Yep.
Go ahead.
So when Susie, Mrs. LaVorn, bought this, her intent was to buy it as a rental property, or to actually live?
Not really. We wanted to make sure it was a legal structure. She paid a lot of money at the time for it. And when you buy a piece of property, if it has a building on it, we have to make sure it was done by the codes or went through all the boards. At the time, Susie, was a married woman and a son, and that's, things have since changed. So things do change along the way, as you know. And when we looked at the property, we had to make sure it was legal, and it was in '64.
When that was on the market at that time, it was being marketed as a single-family residence with a boathouse?
It was a boathouse that's livable. It was, if you look at it. I forget who, I think Real Estate, I worked for them at the time. If you go back into the real estate books, and we personally went down into the basements and looked at all the codes.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, you mentioned she does rent it. Could you be more specific? What does that mean? She does rent what? She rents the boathouse?
No, she rents the house, and
Okay.
and she...
Just
said-
trying to clarify.
Oh,
You
no.
made the comment she does rent it.
Yeah,
and I
but
didn't
not
know
the
what
not the
it
boathouse.
was.
Never.
Thank you very much.
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments? Any information? All right. I think the board, let's have a bit of a discussion on this, see where we go.
No other comments from?
No, that I had asked.
I actually have a question.
Okay, please do. Who do you want to ask?
I'd like to ask Ed Kirk. Do you have a copy of the zoning bylaw that was in effect in 1967?
Yes, I
The
do.
part that shows setback, dimensional
Yes.
setback.
I do.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's, just bear with me a moment. Yes, it is in your file.
It's in the file.
We've got it right here.
It's right here, Ed.
Oh, it is
Okay.
there.
Yeah,
On
why
the
not?
side yard, it's 1965 supplemental. Side yard, at each side of every dwelling, there shall be a side yard not less than 10 feet in clear width between the side of the house and the side lot line. Side yard shall be at all points clear from the front to the rear line of the house. House.
Dwelling and
But it
house.
doesn't say
Silent on
structure.
Silent on
accessory.
accessory structure.
Just house.
House.
Okay.
It's clearly
That's the
twice,
key.
yeah,
That's
house.
the key that says
That's why they
house,
didn't,
sideline.
The backyard setback is the same thing, it's house.
yeah.
And do they define accessory structure in that bylaw?
They define accessory uses. They do not, at least the section that we have, don't have setbacks for accessory structures.
Right.
Okay.
Changed in 75.
Sorry to take your thunder away from you.
That's all right.
We
That's
figured
okay.
we'd save a little
I'll be
time.
fumbling out here for another 5 minutes.
We have it.
Any other questions? Suri, anything else? Okay. Let's start a little discussion here. Scott?
I think it's getting tangled up, and I don't see where there's any problem, other than making this a separate structure. I mean, it's used as a separate bedroom. They can put gold wallpaper on the wall and marble floors if they want, as long as there's no kitchen in there. And that's why I tried to go and find and ask if anyone had any knowledge of that taking place in there, and no one has. While I can understand that there may be some renters and noise complaints, that's not for us. That, if it's legal to rent, it's legal to rent. That's a police issue, or we have to go on what's before us, and I can't personally find anything that talks against that, personally.
All right.
Thank you.
Tricia?
The structure was built in 1967. It was built according to what we have with a bathroom. There's still a bathroom there. If somebody wants to put a bed in there and let their kids sleep in there, that's fine. They're not renting it as a second dwelling on the property, according to this information here. And as Scott said, we all have rentals around us at one point in time, and yeah, they do make noise, and you call the police, that's what they're there for. I can't see anything that's not been done the way it should be. That's all I have.
Ken?
I have to agree with the other board members. In fact, one piece of testimony was cars with multiple license plates from different states. You certainly could have a group come together as a single rental for the property. Let's go to the Cape, have some fun. That's not to minimize the impacts on the neighbors of partying and so forth. Clearly, that's a separate issue, but unfortunately not a zoning issue.
David?
I concur with the other three members. I've just been used as a boathouse, overflow, sleeping area to the primary. I don't see where the problem is with it.
Patty?
Same with me.
Okay. And I would agree, but let me go a little bit further. The crux of the building commissioner's letter appears to be that there was a special permit or variance in 1967. And if that were the case, any modification of that special permit, depending on what it said, would have to come back to this board for modification. The reality is, in 1967, strange as it may appear, and it does appear strange to me, the request for a variance and the decision that's now referred to as a special permit was actually an opinion by the Zoning Board of Appeals. It wasn't a decision. It wasn't a decision to grant relief, which is what this board does. So without the need for relief, it's a by right use. It's a legal use. What would become illegal, and I saw Susan leave, but would be her concern that it become an apartment or become a second dwelling. We define a second dwelling when it has not only sleeping accommodations, but it has kitchen facilities. But an accessory use is something that's customarily incidental and secondary to a permitted use. And the use of habitable space in an accessory building happens all the time, and garages get converted into playrooms, bedrooms, etc., with some caveats. If there were a special permit, it would have to come back to us. There was none here. It still has to meet all of the other criteria that we were saying about conservation, the Board of Health in terms of the proper septic system. We have information in the file, I think, that talks about the septic system being approved for four bedrooms on this property. From the information that we have, that's 3 bedrooms in the main house, 1 bedroom in the accessory building. There was comment made about it being rented for 12 individuals. I didn't see that, but if there were an overuse of the building, it would be a Board of Health issue. But I think what the board is saying is that based on the fact that there is no special permit on this property or variance, it's an accessory building, and allowed is an accessory use, which would be habitable space, such as extra living area, extra bedrooms, as long as it meets the Board of Health, but there would not be allowed any apartment. There would not be allowed any kitchen facilities, and that's why we're asking the questions. This board is not going to do what the board did in 1967 and issue an opinion and say, here's what you should or should not do, but I think I just wanted to go through the explanation for everyone so that you would understand what is and what is not allowed. So, unless the board, sorry?
And the accessory uses are allowed by a building permit.
Exactly.
Not interior changes can be done through a building permit with the Board of Health's approval, which apparently they did for that bedroom.
Right.
Which allowed that 4th bedroom, if you will. So just to make sure they do not have to come back to this.
Without the building department being represented here, we can only assume which I thought, as Mr. Kirk had suggested, that in quickly looking at the opinion that was written in 1967, it looks, sounds, and smells like, but isn't, a special permit. It really isn't. It says, this is our opinion, and no permit is required. But, again, we can't speak to any other possibilities, whether there's health violations, building code violations. We're just simply not the board for that. So any additional information that the board needs?
One, maybe for the record, the lot size would be worth.
8,640 square feet. The other thing is, when the Board of Health did an inspection for this variance on the septic system, they stated in their inspection that there were 3 in the house and 1 bedroom in the boathouse.
What's the date of that?
That is, hang on one second.
7/30/01.
Yeah, 7/01. So that's just a second inspection, of another town department that said that the bathroom was there, so.
11 years.
Yeah.
So just to be clear on the lot size issue, then that disqualifies it from,
They cannot have an accessory apartment, even through a special
Correct.
permit, if they don't have 15,000 square feet. So they will never be able to have cooking facilities, and it will never be able to be rented separately as a unit.
good.
Now, again, while we're discussing, and for the benefit of those, if they wanted to alter this structure in terms of changing its dimensional size, it would be what we consider pre-existing non-conforming. If it was conforming, perhaps back in 1967, it doesn't conform to the side yard setbacks for today. So if somebody wanted to put an addition onto that, it would require a special permit before this board. Okay? But none of those things are really here, and I think we're just doing it for an educational part of it. But I get the sense from the board that it wants to overturn the building commissioner's decision and act in favor of this application. So is there a motion?
Well, do we need to close
We need to
first?
close first.
Oh, yes, forgive me.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, Mrs. Fahuli and Mr. Foreman.
Okay.
All those in favor of closing this hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous vote. All right, action of the board.
I will make a motion to, thank you,
To
overturn.
approve the application and
And
overturn the
overturn.
building commissioner's
I'll second it.
All right, Mrs. Fahuli, Mr. Zelinski, any further discussion? And again, I think our findings are what we've tried to spell out for you, is that there is no special permit on this property or no variance, the required modifications, and we have no evidence that
I
it...
think we should find there's no accessory apartment there.
That's right.
Yes, definitely.
I was just about to say, no evidence of an accessory apartment or kitchen in the facility or it being rented separately.
Right.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous vote. Thank you very much for your participation and your efforts to try to resolve this.
Thanks for being here.
All right. That ends that one hearing. We do have minutes of June
And has everybody,
21st.
I have not been able to read them. No, did you send them to me?
I did send them.
You want?
You did.
I did.
Okay. All right, so we'll hold
I'll
off.
resend them to you again, and we can do it July 12th.
We'll hold off on the minutes.
Thank you.
I like to get them approved for the 10 days.
A couple of just quick things.
Yes,
One is I wanted to thank both David and Patty for their interest in filling Dennis's position and going through the interview process with the Board of Selectmen. I want to congratulate Patty for her appointment, remind her that before the 12th gets sworn in, and which means that we do have an associate's position that should be advertised. The next is I wanted to personally thank Dennis for all of his service to this town and board. I did mention at the Selectmen's meeting Monday, but I just wanted to do it here. I hoped he would be here. Not only was he a very constructive and productive member, but I also want to personally thank him for the efforts he did, along with some other members that sit on this board, to turn this board from a 3-member board into a 5-member board. And I just very much appreciate him as a colleague and all that he did for the board.
I'll second that comment. Dennis, I'm sure, is not watching this evening, but in the event he is.
better not be.
Also, you said Dennis and Patty.
No, I thought I said David and Patty for their interest in
Filling
applying for
Dennis.
the associate's position.
I mean, you said Dennis, not David.
I think he
No, I
said
said
David.
David.
I think he said David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those who think he said David, raise your hand.
What?
No, I appreciate the fact that you both were interested in doing it, and, it comes out as it is. But thank you to Dennis, really. So, anything else? All right. If not, with nothing else to come before us, I will adjourn the meeting. See you on the 12th.